So in my last video, I was explaining how Deb's solution works, her solution to her spreadsheet day formula puzzle. Now, in the comments below my video, Ankur said, hey, we don't have to use an array formula. Array formulas require Control-Shift-Enter, and they're often heavier than a normal formula. We can just use this normal formula and press the Enter key, and it will give us the results. So before we jump in and look at how this works, it's really cool how it works, but there's a couple of concepts that make it a bit tricky. But once you get past that, then you'll probably use this a lot because it doesn't require Control-Shift-Enter. You just press the normal Enter key when you enter the formula, and it's faster. So let's look at the requirements really quickly. We have these text values here in column D, and imagine in the real world we'd have a lot more of them, but this is just a small sample. We have 4 of them, and for each of these we want to say, hey, are any of these individual values found within here? If so, then we want to say, in this case, it's Joe and Company. Look in here. Oh, there it is. We find this is the word that's found within here. Then we just take this code and we put it over there. So let's do one more. Here we see, we look through here. Oh, we find this term within this cell. So we take this and we put it over there. And so the trick is we don't want to do this manually. It would take forever. Now there is kind of a Band-Aid solution. We could say, let's do this one by one. Take these, let's put them over here, values, transpose, and search function is meant to do something like this. Hey, search for a single text, which is going to be this guy, and we want to look for it within a single cell, which is going to be that guy. And then we have to lock this correctly. I press enter. It gives me a value error. It can't find Benson Ltd within here. Then we take this and we drag it over and we drag it down. So you can see where this is headed. In each row, here we find the Joe and Company. Over here we find Benson Ltd inside of that cell. Here in the next row, we're finding the Smithers, and here it's the 11. We could do another formula here to extract which one is found. It's this guy, right? Or, down here it is this one. We want to take this and put it over here. We could do that, right? And eventually we get the code, sort of a step-by-step approach. How Deb solved it and how I solved it was using an array formula, which is just everything in one step. More complex, but it's all in one step. Mine's a little different, but it's also an array formula. So the interesting thing about Ankur's solution, there's no those array brackets at the beginning and at the end of the formula, like in Deb's formula and my formula. We don't need them over here. The lookup can handle an array without doing Control-Shift-Enter. We just go in here, we type the formula, we just press enter like a normal formula. So how does this thing work? There's a couple little tricky steps, so let's go through here and try this out. First step, look for each individual customer inside each individual imported data. So this, you might notice that this is nothing new at this point. This is the same as what I have over here. The search for all of these guys as a group. Remember how, let's go to Ankur's formula. Remember how I said back over here that we're looking for only one thing, right? We're looking for one value, which is the Benson Ltd, inside of one cell. Well, this is still like an array because we're looking for multiple things at the same time. Look for A2 in D2. Look for A3 in D2. Look for A4 in D2. But the lookup function can handle the array without having to do that Control-Shift-Enter. We just press the Enter key. I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but that's how it works. So that part is the same. Let's go to step 2, and that is 1 divided by values inside the search array. Creates a fraction for all the values. Now, in this case, we're not going to find multiple things inside of that. We're only going to find one number. But nevertheless, we're saying, hey, take a 1 divided by everything. So before I do that, I could go like this. F9, we see a fraction. We see an error. We didn't find Benson Ltd inside of D2, but we found Joe and Company. It's 0.05. Let's go back a step and just do the search. Just highlight this part, press the F9. It's a value error. It's a 20 and a value error. That means that the second thing, the Joe and Company, that's the second position here. It's found in the 20th. It's the 20th character, the J of Joe and Company, the 20th character inside of cell D2, counting from left to right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 20. That's the J right there. So that's how it works. But we're saying 1 divided by everything, and that's how we get these guys. See, we started off with this result, now we're getting this result. All right, let's keep going here. Step number 3. Numbers are fractions, but we search for a 2. Formula gives us the last value. How is that possible? Well, we look over here. That's one of the tricks. We'll never find a 2. That's one of those little tricks. Really what I should do is change it so that all of these things are found within one of these cells so that you can see multiple numbers inside of here. But let's now, to get that concept, let's go over to here and review binning very quickly. Here we have the lookup function, and we're saying look for C2, which is a 72, inside of here, and when we find it, give us this answer. Well, how does that work? Well, I've got this conditional formatting on so that the 72, well, it's not found in between these two, right? Not found in between these two, but it is greater than or equal to 70, and it's less than 80, so it falls back to here, and then the answer comes from beside it because we told it to, hey, look for the C2, look for this guy in here, C7 to C12. When you find it, here's the answer. The result vector, which is in column D. So that's how that works. Watch what happens if I change this to 79. Nothing changes. It still doesn't quite get to the next level. So these have to be in increasing order from smallest to greatest. And I should mention that the lookup function down here, lookup function only does approximate match. That's all it can do. VLOOKUP can do either one. It could do approximate match. It could also do exact match. There's a little, let me show you here. I'll unhide this, and really quickly we'll look at this and say, hey, it can do either one. True for approximate match, or false. It could also be false or a 0 for exact match. Now, the weird thing about VLOOKUP, if we take it away, don't even say which one, it still works as approximate match. Kind of crazy how that works. But let's go back to just our lookup function. So lookup function can only do approximate match, but here is the trick. Here's the trick. Here's the 79. What happens if I put in 582? It gives us an A+. Why does it do that? Well, what it does, it looks in between each of these pairs all the way down, looking for that 582. It can't find it. It gets to the last pair, and it's beyond our greatest value of 100. So it basically gives up, and it just says, okay, I'll give you A+. If you got a score of 582 out of 100 on this test, which seems impossible, but let's say you're a genius, then you get an A+. We don't have anything higher. So it goes all the way to the top part, which is going all the way down, and it says, okay, just give you the top thing. So that's sort of how what Ankur's formula is doing. We have, over here, we're looking for a 2, and we have all these tiny fractions. We're never going to find the 2 within any of these values here. Now, normally, we have to, like when we do approximate match, we have to have these sorted properly. Over here, they're not sorted, they're just sort of random, but it works just fine because the 2 is bigger than all of these guys. It just keeps going and going and going, and it just gives up, and it just says, okay, man goes the answer, right? If we made, well, we could keep going down, but it wouldn't matter because if they're as long as these are all fractions, it will never find the answer. It will just do the same kind of thing. The default, that's our answer here. So it's a clever way to use approximate match to return the last value. So let's go back here, and it's a little bit of a stretch, right? But remember, Ankur's formula, it does not require Control-Shift-Enter, and usually these binning formulas are much faster than, let's say, an array formula or anything else. This is going to be pretty fast if you had a lot of values. So that final step, now it's the last part is pretty easy. We're just saying, hey, our answer comes from here, right? It is sort of like doing a VLOOKUP or index match, where you tell it where to look and you tell it where the answer comes from. In this case, our answer is the result vector, comes from right in there. Now, I know this has been a little bit of a stretch, but once you understand how this works, some people they will always do it this way because this is faster and it's even a shorter formula than these two monsters over here. This is definitely worth learning, investing some time, and it is a great solution.